This is our attachment on the national debt, entitled Debt Ownership as Class Warfare. I'm Michael Bender from the Center for Fiscal Equity. So, visibility into how the national debt, held by both the public and the government at the household level, sheds light on why Social Security, rather than payments for the interest on the debt, are a concern for so many advocacy institutions across the political spectrum, but especially those on the right. Direct household attribution can be made by calculating direct bond holdings, income provided by Social Security payments, and secondary financial instruments backed with debt assets for each income quartile. You can do that, again, for any kind of ownership. The survey of consumer finances by the Federal Reserve lets you use some of that, and various government sources are available for the rest. So responsibility to repay the debt is attributed based on personal income tax collection. Payroll taxes create an asset for the payer, so they cannot be included in the calculation of who owns the debt. You get an asset when you pay your payroll taxes. Even, and while you don't get the bond, the bonds are collective, you do get an entitlement. That, it's as good as any other entitlement covered by law. Using 2019 tax data and the national debt data as of 2 days ago, February 15th of 2022, the ratio is $19 of debt owed for every dollar of income tax paid. Let me say that again. If you owe $1 million in taxes, then your share of the national debt is $19 million in taxes. If you don't pay any taxes, you owe nothing. And that's about a third of households. They file and don't have to pay any taxes, and they have no obligation for the debt. You can't go after them for it because the reason we have a debt is because we can collect that money. And let's look at at incomes, shall we? You have three classes: upper, middle, and working or lower class. Now, I divide them not by warm bodies, but by or warm bank accounts, but by equal shares of adjusted gross income for individuals. So the top 4% gets the top 4% of households own 1/3 of AGI. And the next 20% own the next third. And the bottom 75% get the bottom third. Now, I've got a table in here. Hopefully I can insert it into Zoom. If not, there will be a link to it in the comments below. Or rather, hopefully that YouTube will allow me to insert it. But I'll insert a link anyway. So the bottom 80% of tax-paying units hold few, if any, public debt issues in the form of treasury bonds or securities, or in accounts holding such assets, and only take home 1/3 of adjusted gross income, as we said, or a little less. Their main national debt assets are held on their behalf by the government. They're owed more debt than they owe through taxes. The next 10%, the middle class, and not some of the middle class anyway, hold more in terms of long-term investments in mutual fund and bond assets. They hold a bit under 1/5 of social insurance assets, meaning the other 4/5 are owned by the working class or the retired class, the people who collect them. The top 10% pay more than half of income taxes. The dividing line is at about 97.5% from the bottom or 2.5% from the top. And it's been that way for a while. This isn't a new thing. Asset shares within the top 10% are estimated using the same breakdowns for the entire population. Again, that's referring to the chat. The fraction is the top 10% own 54% of Federal Reserve and long-term debt investment assets, and 70% of mutual fund and bond assets. Then the top 1% own 54% of, or 77% of those of that top 10% pool of assets, and so on and so on. And this is borne out by income data, which shows again a tax AGI for going up by half, for it distributed by half in any range, by the one half going to the top 10%, and the other half going to the bottom 90, and then the top 9 and the top 1. It goes up all the way to the top 0.001 as far as AGI reception. I will not call it earnings for anybody over the 0.1% of the population, if not for the 1%. But if you're in the top 0.1%, you're not working for your money. I'm sorry, you're getting that as passive income. This shows exactly who benefits the most from having a national debt. Therefore, these people have the most to lose from defaulting on it, or their children do. Because if you own the debt and the debt goes belly up, the poor may have a cash flow problem, but your wealth is going to disappear if you don't do something about it and pay adequate taxes. Right now, they're not paid. A 19 to 1 ratio is not reasonable. It's not historic. The usual is 1 to 6. Even it's been down to 1 to 4. Under the Clinton years, it was like 1 to 9, and then went down to 1 to 6 after a time. This needs to be taken care of. Some of it will be taken care of automatically as the pandemic wanes or goes away and the recovery gains steam. Hopefully and inflation prices go back to reasonable levels. Hopefully tax revenues will as a percentage of the debt, or rather the debt, yes. We have our hopes, but taxes have to go up, and tax reform will have to happen to do that. The current system doesn't really work for anybody to get the money they need to raise their families, or to pay the money they need to pay or want to pay it to balance the budget and decrease the national debt. Not just starting, of course, with stopping letting net interest roll over. If we do that, the thing starts automatically to go down. And that's what happened under Clinton. Alan Greenspan wasn't worried about the banking system. He was worried about capitalism not having enough money to leverage the economy. His gasp, then workers would be able to control it if capitalists had less leverage over companies. So, yes, that is it for this this attachment. The next attachment is usually, when this comes up, is usually tax reform, and that is several videos. So, thank you very much.